A millionaire single dad witnessed his nanny sleeping on the floor. What he did next shocked. It's about a millionaire single dad who has everything, or so he thought. But one night, he witnessed something that would change his perspective on life forever. As Liam Parker, a successful millionaire entrepreneur, stepped into his luxurious penthouse, the weight of his long day was still fresh in his mind. He had just wrapped up an important meeting, one of many in a week that felt endless. The demands of his business empire were never-ending. He was used to this pressure, but there was always something missing. At 42, he was at the top of his game, wealthy, successful, and respected in his field. But all that success had come at a personal cost. His wife had left him years ago, unable to handle the pressures of being married to a man who was always away. His son, Ethan, was now living with his mother, and Liam only saw him on weekends. The loneliness gnawed at him, especially on nights like this, when he had to come home to an empty apartment. He walked into the kitchen, his mind still racing, when he noticed something that caught him off guard. His nanny, Lucy, was sitting on the floor, her back against the kitchen counter, her eyes closed in exhaustion. She was supposed to be watching over Ethan, but tonight, she looked completely drained. Liam paused for a moment, his brow furrowed. He had always thought of Lucy as just another employee, someone to take care of the mundane tasks of parenting that he couldn't manage himself. But now, seeing her so vulnerable, something shifted inside him. He walked closer, and for a moment, he considered just letting her sleep. But as he stood there, watching her breathe heavily, he realized something that made him pause. She wasn't just tired. She was sleeping on the floor. His eyes scanned the kitchen, taking in the disarray of the small apartment they lived in. The bare walls, the worn furniture, the lack of personal touches that made a home feel like a home. This wasn't what he had imagined for her. She deserved better. And that realization hit him hard. He had always taken care of himself, building his empire from the ground up, but he had never stopped to think about the people who worked for him, especially the ones like Lucy, who sacrificed so much for others. As he stood there, an overwhelming sense of guilt washed over him. He had been so focused on his business, on his wealth, that he had failed to see how difficult things had been for her. How could he have let this happen? He had the power to change it all, and yet he had done nothing. The moment hung in the air, and for the first time in a long while, Liam felt like he was looking at the world through new eyes. He knelt down beside Lucy, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. "Lucy," he said softly, "wake up." Slowly, she stirred, her eyes fluttering open. When she saw him there, kneeling beside her, a look of embarrassment crossed her face. She quickly stood up, brushing herself off. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Parker," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean to fall asleep here." Liam shook his head, his expression serious. "No, it's okay," he said, his voice calm. I just didn't realize what you've been going through. I've been so focused on my own life that I haven't paid attention to what's been happening in yours." Lucy looked at him, unsure of how to respond. She had never heard him speak like this before. She had always known him as the busy, distant employer, but now, in this moment, he seemed different, more human. Liam paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "Listen," he said, "I want to help. You don't deserve to be living like this. I can't change the past, but I can make sure you're taken care of from now on." Lucy's eyes widened in disbelief. She had worked for Liam for over a year, but she had never expected him to say anything like this. She had always kept her head down, focusing on her job, never expecting anything more. But now, as she looked into his eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen before, a genuine desire to make things right. Liam's voice softened. "I know I've never been the best at showing it, but I appreciate everything you've done for Ethan and me. From now on, you won't have to worry about living like this. I'll make sure you have a proper room, a better place to stay. I'll also help you with whatever you need." Lucy blinked back, tears, overwhelmed by his words. She had never imagined that someone like Liam Parker, a millionaire, a powerful man, would care enough to help her. She had always thought she was just another part of the help. But in that moment, she realized that perhaps she wasn't just a caretaker. She was someone who mattered. Liam stood up, looking at her with a kind expression. "You've been doing a lot for us, Lucy. It's time I did something for you." He offered her a genuine smile, and for the first time, she saw him as more than just the boss. She saw a man who, despite his wealth and success, was willing to open his heart. And as she stood there, tears welling in her eyes, she realized that this moment, this simple act of kindness, would change everything. After that moment, Liam couldn't stop thinking about the conversation he'd had with Lucy. The next day, he was determined to follow through on his promise. As he sat in his office, surrounded by papers and glowing screens, he could still picture her exhausted face on the floor of the kitchen, and it gnawed at him. He realized that despite everything he had, despite the wealth, he had never truly seen the people around him. He had always been so consumed by his empire that he had forgotten what it meant to truly care for those who helped him. He needed to make it right. He quickly made a call to his personal assistant, Claire. "Cancel everything for the next 2 hours," he said. "I'm going to handle something important." He was already grabbing his coat. In just a few minutes, Liam was in his car, heading home. When he arrived, he saw Lucy sitting at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a warm cup of coffee. She looked up in surprise as he walked in. "Mr. Parker, I didn't expect you so early," she said, her voice cautious but polite. He smiled at her, a genuine smile that she hadn't seen from him before. "Call me Liam," he said, walking toward the table and sitting down. "And don't worry, I won't be taking much of your time. There's something I need to talk to you about." Lucy frowned slightly, unsure of what was going on. She had spent a lot of time with Ethan, but never had Liam sat down with her like this. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her eyes filled with concern. Liam nodded. "Yes, everything is fine. But I've been thinking a lot about our conversation last night. I want to make sure you're comfortable. You deserve better than what you've been given. I'm going to take care of you." Lucy's heart skipped a beat. She had never expected him to actually follow through. She had heard empty promises from bosses before, but this felt different. "You don't have to do this," she said softly, her voice filled with hesitation. "You've already done more than enough." Liam shook his head. "No, I haven't, and I want to make it right. You've been helping me, helping Ethan, and now it's my turn to help you. I want you to have a proper room in this house. You've been staying in the spare room, but I think you deserve better. I'll make sure you have everything you need, anything you want." Lucy couldn't believe her ears. She had never imagined that someone like Liam Parker, a billionaire businessman, would care enough to offer her something more than a paycheck. "But why?" she asked, still in disbelief. "Why do you care?" Liam leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "Because I see you, Lucy. I see the sacrifices you've made for me and Ethan. You've been here for us, taking care of everything, without asking for anything in return. And that means something. You mean something. I want you to know that." His words left her speechless. For a moment, she just stared at him, not knowing how to respond. She had never had anyone speak to her like that. But the sincerity in his eyes made her heart swell with emotion. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Liam smiled again, his eyes softening. "It's the least I can do." He stood up, walking toward the door. "I'll get my assistant to arrange everything. You'll have a new room by the end of the week." As he reached the door, he paused, turning to look back at her. "And Lucy," he added, "you've earned this. Don't ever think you're just a maid. You're a part of this family, and I mean that." The words hit her like a wave, and for the first time in a long time, Lucy allowed herself to believe in the kindness of others. Liam's gesture wasn't just about the room or the money. It was about seeing her for who she truly was, not just what she could do for him. He had made her feel valued. As Liam left the house, Lucy stood there, overwhelmed by the kindness that had been shown to her. She couldn't help but think about how her life had changed in such a short amount of time. From the moment she started working for Liam, she had always felt like an outsider, someone who was only there to do a job. But now, she felt like she was part of something bigger, something real. She sat down at the table, staring at the empty cup in front of her, her mind racing. How could this be happening? How could someone like Liam Parker, who had everything, care so deeply about her? A simple nanny. But the answer was clear. He saw her, not just as a worker, but as a person. And in that moment, she realized that everything she had been through, the struggles, the loneliness, had brought her to this point. She was no longer invisible. She was no longer just a servant. She was someone who mattered. As the days passed, Lucy found herself adjusting to the changes that Liam had promised. The room he had arranged for her was warm and welcoming, far better than anything she had ever imagined. It was a small, cozy space, with soft lighting, a comfortable bed, and even a window with a view of the city skyline. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she could breathe, like she wasn't just existing but living. The transition wasn't easy. There were still moments when doubt crept in. She had never been treated like this before, and part of her struggled to accept it. She wasn't used to kindness, especially from someone like Liam. However, as the days turned into weeks, she began to realize that he wasn't just helping her out of obligation or guilt. He genuinely cared. Meanwhile, Liam also noticed a shift in his home. The atmosphere seemed lighter. Ethan was more at ease, knowing that his nanny was comfortable. There was a warmth in the house that had been missing for so long. Liam hadn't realized how much the small changes in his personal life could impact his family. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Liam sat down at the dinner table with Ethan. The two of them had just finished eating when Ethan spoke up, looking at his dad with a seriousness that only a child could have. "Dad," Ethan said, "Lucy's happy now, right?" Liam was taken aback by the question. He had never really talked to Ethan about Lucy's living conditions, but it was clear that his son had noticed the change. "Yeah, she's happy," Liam said, trying to sound reassuring. "And I'm happy too," Ethan added. "I like her, Dad. She's nice. She doesn't just tell me what to do, like the others." Liam felt a lump form in his throat as he looked at his son. Ethan was right. Lucy had a way of connecting with him that no one else had. She didn't treat him like a child who needed constant supervision. Instead, she listened to him, engaged with him, and made him feel understood. Liam realized that he had taken her for granted, not just as a caretaker, but as someone who had become a part of their family. It was then that he realized the full impact of his decision to help her. It wasn't just about giving her a better room or more comfort. It was about recognizing her as a person, as someone who mattered. And that recognition had a ripple effect. It wasn't long before Liam found himself sitting down with Lucy again. This time, it wasn't a discussion about her living arrangements or her work. It was something deeper, something more personal. He had been reflecting on how much his life had changed since he'd met her. He had learned more about himself and the value of kindness in the short time she had worked for him than he had in years of running his business. One evening, as they sat in the living room, Liam turned to Lucy. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice more serious than usual. Lucy looked at him, sensing the shift in his tone. "About what?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. "About us," Liam said. "About what you mean to this family. You've become so much more than just a nanny to Ethan and me. I don't know if you realize it, but you're a part of our lives now, in a way that no one else is. And I want you to know that you're not just an employee anymore. You're family." Lucy's heart skipped a beat. She had never expected to hear those words. No one had ever treated her like family, especially not someone as powerful as Liam. She could feel the sincerity in his voice, and for a moment, she was at a loss for words. "Thank you," she finally managed to say, her voice soft but full of emotion. "You don't know what that means to me." Liam smiled, his eyes warm. "I think I do," he said quietly. "You've been here for us, Lucy. And it's time we're here for you, too." In that moment, something shifted. The walls that had once divided them, employer and employee, wealthy and working class, began to fade away. They were no longer just two people going about their separate lives. They were a family, bound not by blood, but by the kindness, respect, and care they had shown one another. It was a moment of realization for Liam, and it was the start of something beautiful. Lucy felt something stir within her as well. She had always been the one giving, the one helping others. But now, for the first time in a long time, she felt that she was receiving something in return, something she never expected. She wasn't just the nanny anymore. She was valued. She was loved. And in that quiet, powerful moment, she realized that this was more than just a job. It was a chance for her to be part of something bigger than herself, something that could change the course of her life forever. As the weeks went by, Liam and Lucy's connection continued to deepen. What had started as a simple act of kindness had now blossomed into something more meaningful, something neither of them had anticipated. Liam had always prided himself on being a self-made man, someone who achieved success through his own efforts. But Lucy had taught him something he hadn't learned in any boardroom or business deal. She had taught him the importance of human connection, of empathy, and of being there for the people who mattered most. They were no longer just employer and employee. They had become friends, partners in a way that felt natural, yet still so unexpected. Lucy, for her part, had started to open up more. At first, she had kept to herself, unsure of how to navigate the newfound dynamic between them. But, as time passed, she found herself trusting Liam more, finding comfort in the genuine kindness he had shown her. She had never been treated like this before, not by anyone, let alone by someone with as much power as Liam. One evening, as the two of them were sitting together in the living room, Ethan came rushing in, his eyes wide with excitement. "Dad, Lucy, you're never going to believe it," he exclaimed. Liam raised an eyebrow, intrigued by his son's enthusiasm. "What's going on, buddy?" he asked, smiling. Ethan, not pausing for a second, jumped right into his news. "I got into the school play. I'm going to be the lead in the new play, and they want me to perform in front of the whole school next month." Liam's heart swelled with pride. Ethan had always been a shy child, and to see him so excited about something he was passionate about made Liam's chest tighten with emotion. "That's amazing, buddy," Liam said, pulling his son into a hug. Lucy, who had been sitting nearby, watched them with a warm smile. Ethan's joy was contagious, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of happiness for him. She had seen Ethan grow over the past few months, his confidence growing right along with the love and care Liam had shown him. "I'm so proud of you, Ethan," Lucy said, her voice filled with affection. "You're going to be great." Ethan beamed at her, clearly thrilled by her words. "Thanks, Lucy. I couldn't have done it without you cheering me on." The simple exchange struck something deep within Liam. He had always provided for Ethan, always made sure he had everything he needed, but it was moments like these, moments of genuine connection, that mattered the most. It wasn't the money, or the luxury, or the success. It was the love, the encouragement, and the support that made all the difference. Over the next few weeks, Liam watched Ethan rehearse tirelessly for his play. There were moments of doubt, moments when Ethan wanted to give up, but with Lucy's support and Liam's encouragement, Ethan pushed through. It was a testament to the power of having people who believed in you. As the night of the performance arrived, Liam found himself sitting in the audience, his heart racing with anticipation. Ethan's school gymnasium was packed, and the energy in the air was electric. Liam was proud, not just of Ethan for his bravery, but of the family they had become. When Ethan's name was called, the spotlight shining on him, Liam couldn't help but feel his chest swell with pride. His son was standing on that stage, ready to face the crowd, ready to shine. And Lucy, who had been there every step of the way, encouraging him, lifting him up, was right by his side, beaming with pride. The play was a huge success, and as Ethan took his final bow, the crowd erupted into applause. Liam's eyes met Lucy's, and for a brief moment, everything else faded away. In that simple, beautiful moment, Liam knew that his life had changed in ways he never expected. He had spent so many years chasing success, focusing on his career, his wealth, and his legacy. But now, he realized, what mattered most was the people in his life, the ones who made everything worth it. After the play, as they stood together in the hallway, Ethan turned to Liam and Lucy, his face shining with excitement. "I did it. I was amazing, right?" he said, practically bouncing with energy. Liam laughed, pulling him into a hug. "You were incredible, buddy. I'm so proud of you." Lucy stepped forward, her voice warm and sincere. "You were amazing, Ethan. You have a real talent." Ethan grinned, looking from one to the other. "I couldn't have done it without both of you," he said, his words filled with gratitude. It was in that moment that Liam realized just how much he had grown, not just as a father, but as a man. He had learned the true meaning of family, of love, and of what it meant to be there for each other. And as they stood together, their bond stronger than ever, Liam knew that this was only the beginning of something beautiful, a family built not on wealth or status, but on love and mutual respect. He had found something that was more valuable than anything money could buy. As the months passed, the bond between Liam, Lucy, and Ethan only grew stronger. What had begun as a simple act of kindness had blossomed into a true family dynamic. The walls that had once separated them, Liam's wealth, Lucy's humble beginnings, had dissolved, leaving behind a sense of belonging that no amount of money could buy. Liam had found a peace he hadn't even realized he was missing. Every day, he was reminded that life wasn't just about building an empire or earning wealth. It was about love, care, and being there for the people who mattered. And as he looked at his family, Ethan, who was growing more confident with each passing day, and Lucy, who had become an integral part of their lives. He realized he had everything he needed. One Sunday afternoon, the three of them sat together in the living room, enjoying a quiet day at home. Ethan was working on a drawing for school, his face scrunched in concentration, while Lucy was sitting at the table, reading a book. Liam was sprawled on the couch, his mind wandering. He had been thinking about how far they had come. He couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for what they had built together, even if it wasn't in the traditional sense. He had spent so many years focusing on his career, his business, and his status. But now, he realized that the things that truly mattered, his family, his relationships, were far more important than any business deal or stock portfolio. His thoughts were interrupted by Ethan, who looked up from his drawing and smiled at Liam. "Hey, Dad," Ethan said, his voice filled with excitement. "I've been thinking, do you think we could do something together as a family? Like, go somewhere fun? Maybe a road trip?" Liam smiled at his son, his heart swelling with pride. Ethan had always been a quiet, introspective child, but recently, he had been showing more enthusiasm for life. It was a side of him that Liam hadn't seen before. "A road trip, huh?" Liam asked, his voice filled with warmth. "That sounds like a great idea. What about you, Lucy? You up for a little adventure?" Lucy looked up from her book, her expression thoughtful. She had always been the one to help Liam and Ethan, but she had never really thought about doing something for herself. The idea of a family trip, a chance to bond in a way that felt different from the usual routine, excited her. "I'd love that," she said with a smile. "It's been a while since I've had a real vacation." And so, they planned their first family road trip, excited by the prospect of spending quality time together, away from the pressures of everyday life. The next weekend, they packed up Liam's SUV, filled with snacks, books, and plenty of music. It was a simple trip, but to them, it was everything. As they drove down the open road, the car filled with laughter and conversation, they felt like they were finally living, not just existing. Liam had always loved the idea of family trips, but somehow, he had never found the time to truly make it happen. Now, with Lucy and Ethan by his side, he realized how much they had missed out on by focusing solely on work. They stopped at small towns along the way, exploring quirky shops and scenic viewpoints, enjoying the simple pleasures of life. Ethan was in his element, excited to learn about new places, while Lucy reveled in the beauty of the countryside, appreciating every moment. Liam, for the first time in years, felt a sense of relaxation he hadn't known he needed. One evening, after a day of exploring, they sat around a campfire, roasting marshmallows and telling stories. The sky was clear, the stars shining brightly above them. It was a moment of perfect peace, the kind Liam had never truly experienced before. As he looked at Ethan and Lucy, he realized that this trip wasn't just about getting away. It was about deepening their connection, about making memories that would last a lifetime. "This is perfect," Liam said, his voice filled with contentment. "I never knew how much I needed something like this." Lucy smiled at him, her eyes warm. "I'm glad we could do this together," she said. "It's been so nice to just be here, with the two of you." Ethan, who had been staring at the stars, turned to them and grinned. "We should do this every year," he said. Liam laughed, ruffling his son's hair. "I think that's a great idea," he said. As they sat there, the fire crackling, Liam realized something profound. He had spent so much of his life chasing success, but in the end, it was moments like this, simple, quiet, and full of love, that truly made life worth living. He had everything he needed right here, his family, his home, and the knowledge that no matter what happened in the future, they would always have each other. The road trip was just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one that was filled with love, laughter, and the kind of happiness that came from being together. And as Liam looked at Lucy and Ethan, he knew that this was the family he had always wanted, even if it had come to him in the most unexpected of ways. As the months passed, the bond between Liam, Lucy, and Ethan continued to grow stronger. Their road trip had been a turning point in their relationship, and it felt like they were now more than just a group of individuals living under the same roof. They were truly a family, bound together not by obligation, but by mutual respect, love, and the care they had for one another. Liam had never expected his life to take such a turn. He had been so focused on his career, on climbing the ladder of success, that he had neglected the importance of the people who mattered most. But Lucy, with her kindness and dedication, had reminded him of what truly mattered: love, compassion, and connection. As time went on, Ethan became more confident, not just in his schoolwork, but in his relationships. He had begun to open up more, not just to Liam and Lucy, but to others as well. His teachers had noticed the change in him. He was participating more in class, asking questions, and even volunteering to help his classmates. It was as if the confidence he had gained from being surrounded by love and support had given him the courage to take on the world. Lucy, too, had grown in ways that Liam never expected. She had always been selfless, always putting others before herself, but now, she was starting to see herself in a new light. She no longer felt like just an employee or a nanny. She felt like an equal. Liam had made sure of that. He had encouraged her to pursue her own interests and had even helped her start a small art studio in their spare room. It was something she had always dreamed of doing, but she had never believed she was worthy of pursuing her passion. But Liam's support had given her the confidence to take the first step, and now, her artwork was gaining attention. She was even planning her first gallery showing, and the idea of it filled her with a sense of excitement and pride that she had never felt before. It wasn't just the art that had changed for Lucy, it was her whole outlook on life. She had begun to see herself as someone who deserved more love, more opportunities, and more respect. Liam had helped her realize that she wasn't just a caretaker, that she was an individual with her own dreams and ambitions. One evening, as the three of them sat down to dinner, Ethan looked up from his plate, his eyes filled with curiosity. "Dad," he said, "what's the most important thing you've learned this year?" Liam, who had just taken a sip of his drink, paused for a moment, considering the question. He had learned so much over the past few months, things he had never expected. He had learned that family wasn't just about sharing a home or a last name. It was about being there for each other, supporting one another, and giving each other the space to grow. It was about realizing that no one person was more important than the others. "The most important thing I've learned this year," Liam said, looking at Ethan and then at Lucy, "is that love and kindness are the things that matter most. Everything else, wealth, success, material things, they don't mean much without the people you love by your side." Ethan smiled, nodding as he processed his dad's words. "I get it, Dad. It's like when we went on that road trip. It wasn't about the places we went or the things we saw. It was about being together, having fun, and just being a family." Liam smiled back, proud of how much his son had grown. "Exactly, buddy. Exactly." Lucy, who had been silently listening, felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had never imagined that she would be sitting at a table with Liam and Ethan, talking about life and family in such a meaningful way. She had always been the one giving, the one supporting, but now, for the first time, she felt like she was a part of something truly special. The family they had built wasn't perfect, but it was real. They weren't just going through the motions anymore. They were living, truly living, with love and purpose. After dinner, as they cleaned up the kitchen together, Liam felt a deep sense of contentment. He had everything he needed in this moment: his family, his home, and the realization that the things he had spent so many years chasing weren't the things that made him truly happy. It was the people around him who gave his life meaning. As Lucy wiped down the counter, she looked over at Liam and smiled. "You know," she said, "I never would have imagined that I'd be here, with you and Ethan, talking like this. It feels like a dream, but it's real." Liam looked at her, his expression softening. "It's real, Lucy. We're real, and we're stronger than ever." As they stood there, in the warmth of their kitchen, Liam realized that this was the family he had always wanted. It hadn't come in the way he expected, but it had come, and it was perfect. He had found love, not just in a romantic sense, but in a way that was deeper, more fulfilling. The family they had built together was everything, and he was determined to keep nurturing it, to keep loving them in the way they deserved. Because in the end, that was all that truly mattered. As the year came to a close, Liam, Lucy, and Ethan continued to thrive as a family, stronger and more connected than ever before. The lessons they had learned over the past months, about love, kindness, and the importance of being there for each other, had become the foundation of their lives. What once seemed like a simple arrangement had turned into something deep and meaningful. Liam had never imagined that his life could change so dramatically, but now, He couldn't imagine living any other way. He had grown not just as a father, but as a person. His focus had shifted from material success to emotional fulfillment, and it felt more rewarding than anything he had ever achieved in business. He had found happiness in the simplest moments, like family dinners, Sunday afternoons spent playing board games, or the laughter they shared while watching movies together. He had also realized that he wanted to build a future where love, trust, and care came first. Ethan, too, had blossomed over the past few months. The shy, reserved boy who had once kept to himself had now become a confident, enthusiastic young man. His performance in the school play had been a turning point, and since then, he had started to take more initiative in other areas of his life. He was excelling in school, joining new clubs, and even making more friends. His teachers had noticed the change as well, praising his newfound confidence. Ethan had learned that when you have people who support you, people who truly care, you can achieve anything. As for Lucy, she was thriving in ways she hadn't expected. Her art studio, which had once been just a dream, had now become a reality. She had started creating and selling her artwork, and the response had been overwhelming. Her first gallery showing had been a success, and she was even thinking about expanding her business. Liam had been there every step of the way, offering support, encouragement, and guidance, but it was Lucy's talent and hard work that had made it all possible. She had discovered a new side of herself, one that was independent and confident, and she was no longer afraid to chase her dreams. One afternoon, after a particularly busy week at work, Liam came home to find Ethan and Lucy sitting on the couch, talking and laughing. There was a lightness in the air, a sense of ease that Liam hadn't noticed before. For a moment, he just stood there, watching them, feeling a deep sense of contentment. He realized how far they had all come, how much they had grown, both individually and as a family. He had always believed that success was measured by the wealth you accumulated, but now he saw that true success was found in the relationships you built, in the love and support you gave to others. He joined them on the couch, and they continued talking about their day. Ethan was telling them about a new project he was working on at school, while Lucy was sharing ideas for her next art piece. Liam listened, fully present in the moment, grateful for the simple joy of being with his family. That evening, after dinner, Liam surprised both Ethan and Lucy with a small, handwritten note. "I've been thinking a lot about the future," he said, looking at both of them with a serious expression. "I know we've come a long way this year, and I couldn't be more proud of both of you. But there's one thing I've realized. I want us to keep growing, keep building on what we have, and keep supporting each other. I want this family to be everything we dreamed of and more." Lucy and Ethan looked at each other, then back at Liam, their eyes filled with love and gratitude. Liam smiled softly, knowing that they had created something truly special together. As they sat there, sharing the quiet warmth of the evening, Liam knew that their journey was far from over. There would be challenges ahead, moments of doubt and uncertainty, but they would face them together. They had built a foundation of love, trust, and respect, and as long as they held on to those values, they could overcome anything. That night, as they all settled into bed, Liam felt an overwhelming sense of peace. He had everything he needed, his family, his home, and the knowledge that the most important things in life were the people you loved and the moments you shared with them. And as he drifted off to sleep, he realized that the future was bright, filled with endless possibilities, as long as they continued to walk through it together. As the new year began, the bond between Liam, Lucy, and Ethan continued to strengthen. They had already come so far, but the journey was far from over. Their family dynamic had evolved into something neither of them had anticipated, something that felt more like home than any of them had ever imagined. For Liam, every day felt like a new lesson in what it meant to be truly alive, to experience love and connection on a deeper level than just material success. He had spent so many years building his empire, but now he understood that true fulfillment was not found in boardrooms or high-stakes business deals. It was found in moments like this, sitting around the dinner table, laughing with the people he loved, knowing they were there for each other no matter what. One chilly Saturday afternoon, as the three of them enjoyed a quiet day at home, Liam looked over at Lucy, who was sitting by the window, sketching in her notebook. He had watched her transform over the past few months. The shy woman who had once felt like an outsider was now confident, assertive, and thriving in her own right. She had opened up her own art studio, something she had always dreamed of, and it was growing faster than she had ever expected. Liam couldn't help but feel proud of her, not just for her success, but for the way she had blossomed into the woman she was today. He had always admired her selflessness, her dedication, but now he saw her as more than just a caretaker. She was an artist, a businesswoman, and someone he truly respected. "Lucy," Liam said, breaking the silence. She looked up from her sketchbook, her eyes bright. "What's on your mind?" "I've been thinking," Liam began, his voice soft, "about the future, about everything we've built together. I know we've come a long way, but I think it's time we take another step forward. I want to make sure that, no matter what happens, we're set for the future. Not just financially, but as a family. I want us to be more than just comfortable. I want us to be truly happy, in every sense of the word." Lucy set down her pencil, her heart swelling at his words. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice filled with curiosity. Liam paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "I've been thinking about the things I want to leave behind. Not just the business or the wealth, but something more meaningful. I want to make sure Ethan has everything he needs, that he grows up with the kind of love and support that we've built here. And I want you to know that you're a part of this too, Lucy. You've been there for me, for Ethan, and now it's time for me to be there for you, in every way." Lucy's eyes welled with tears at his words. She had never expected to be a part of something so beautiful, so real. For so long, she had lived with the belief that she was just someone to be relied upon, a helper, not a true member of a family. But Liam's words had changed everything. He saw her for who she truly was, and it filled her with an overwhelming sense of gratitude and love. "Thank you, Liam," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You've done more for me than I could ever express. I never imagined that I would find a family like this." Liam smiled at her, his heart full. "You don't need to thank me. You're part of this family now, and I'm not going anywhere." As the days passed, Liam kept his promise. He worked with his financial advisors to ensure that everything was in place for their future, everything from securing their home to planning for Ethan's education. But he also made sure to spend more time with Lucy and Ethan, enjoying the little moments that made life truly special. They took weekend trips, visited art galleries, and spent quiet evenings at home, talking and laughing together. It was a life Liam had never imagined, but one he had come to cherish deeply. One afternoon, as they sat together in the living room, Ethan suddenly turned to Liam with a serious expression. "Dad," he said, "can we talk about something?" Liam raised an eyebrow, curious. "Of course, buddy. What's on your mind?" Ethan hesitated for a moment, his hands nervously clutching his favorite toy. "Well," he began, "I've been thinking. I know I'm still young, but I want to make a promise. I promise that I'll always be there for you, and for Lucy. I know you've worked hard for everything, but I want you to know that I'm grateful. I love you both." Liam's heart swelled with pride as he looked at his son. "I love you too, Ethan," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "And I promise I'll always be there for you, no matter what." Lucy, who had been silently listening, smiled warmly. "You're already such a good son, Ethan, and we're so proud of you." As the evening drew to a close, the three of them sat together, wrapped in the warmth of their love and connection. Liam looked at Lucy and Ethan, and in that moment, he realized something profound. Family wasn't just about sharing a name, a house, or even a life. It was about sharing love, trust, and support. And no matter what the future held, he knew they would always have each other. As the seasons changed and the year came to an end, Liam, Lucy, and Ethan stood at the threshold of a new chapter in their lives. The journey they had undertaken together was one of transformation, healing, and deep connection. Liam had learned more than he could have ever imagined in such a short time. He had been so focused on success for so long, never taking the time to really live and experience life with the people who mattered most. Now, he had everything he needed: his family, the love they shared, and the realization that true wealth wasn't measured by the numbers in his bank account, but by the happiness and connection that filled his home. For Lucy, the journey had been equally profound. She had come into this family as a caregiver, a helper, never expecting to find her own place in their lives beyond the role she had been given. But over the months, she had found herself, in her art, in her confidence, and in the love and support she had received from Liam and Ethan. She had built something beautiful, both in her personal life and her art career. What started as a dream had now become a thriving reality, and she was no longer just the nanny. She was a woman with her own dreams, her own voice, and a future she was proud to claim. Ethan had transformed as well. The shy, uncertain child who had once been so quiet and withdrawn was now a young boy full of confidence, optimism, and joy. His love for his family was evident in everything he did, his actions, his words, and his newfound passion for life. The school play had been just the beginning, and his growth had only accelerated from there. He was excelling at school, making new friends, and, most importantly, becoming more connected to the people around him. His bond with both Liam and Lucy had given him the foundation he needed to believe in himself. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Liam looked at Ethan and Lucy, a sense of contentment washing over him. The house was warm, the lights dimmed, and the sound of laughter echoed from the kitchen as they prepared dinner. It was a simple moment, but to Liam, it was everything. He turned to Ethan and smiled. "You know, buddy," he said softly, "I never could have imagined how much my life would change when I first met Lucy. But now I can't imagine my life without either of you." Ethan beamed, his eyes filled with affection. "Me neither, Dad," he said. "You guys are the best." Liam turned to Lucy, his heart full. "And you, Lucy," he continued, his voice thick with emotion. "You've given me and Ethan more than I could have ever hoped for. I don't know what I would have done without you." Lucy smiled warmly, her eyes glistening with tears. "I feel the same way, Liam," she whispered. "I never thought I'd find a family like this. But here we are, together." It was in that moment that Liam realized how far they had come, from the lonely businessman, struggling to connect with the people who mattered most, to the father and partner he had become. His relationship with Lucy, once defined by obligation, had blossomed into something more profound. She wasn't just someone who worked for him. She was someone he loved, someone he valued. And Ethan, his son, had shown him what it meant to truly be present, to love unconditionally, and to embrace every moment with joy. As they sat there, wrapped in the warmth of their shared love, Liam knew that their future was brighter than ever. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together as a family. It wasn't the money or the success that mattered anymore. It was the bond they shared. And in that bond, they had found everything they needed. The road ahead was still uncertain, but Liam knew that as long as they had each other, they would be okay. And so, as the night wore on and the stars shone brightly outside their window, Liam whispered to himself, "This is everything. This is what I've been waiting for." The future held endless possibilities, but one thing was certain: they would walk through it together, hand in hand, heart to heart, and their love would guide them every step of the way.